It's like, oh, this party's not that bad. I'm only gonna take this many shots. Yeah, like the idea of rationalization.
If you guys think that's pretty much what it is, right?
I completely disagree.
What do you guys think about aliens?
Oh, Gen Z, we are deemed the most beautiful generation, but we're also deemed the most anxious.
Get your hands up.
I'd like to start the podcast with a little bit of a casual discussion. It's not relating to this topic. So, what comes to mind right now, what's happening all over social media, have you guys heard about the Drake and Kendrick beef?
No.
No?
I haven't listened to rap in like a few years.
It's not even about the rap, it's just the beef in general. Like
Why are they
Kendrick.
beefing?
I heard a little bit about it. I heard that they were calling each other out on something, and then they like went to go. Now they're writing like their own lyrics. They're pretty much in a battle of poetry.
So, I mean,
That's what
I
I've
could
heard.
sit here and try to break it down. I'm going to do it quickly.
Okay.
Basically, Kendrick is on Metro's album, and there's the big three rap artists are considered Drake, J. Cole, and Kendrick. And so Kendrick calls both Drake and J. Cole out, and he's like, oh, screw the big three, it's just me, right? Like, basically saying, like, I'm the best. And then J. Cole responds with a little diss track. Drake gets on there with a little thing, and then they've just been going back and forth. And it's getting really like passionate now. It's kind of getting to the point where I'm worried one of them is going to get like a hitman on them or something.
Yeah, dude. Those guys' egos are massive.
But anyways, guys, welcome back to the Grain of Salt podcast. Soon to be #1 podcast in the world, obviously. I'm Gavin.
Brandon.
Zane.
We have a new friend here, Zane, today. Zane, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey guys, I'm Zane. I just finished my freshman year at Florida Atlantic University with these two studs. And I've been friends with Gavin for like 3-4 years now, and I love Jesus. I love God. I love talking about it, and yeah, I'm excited to be here. So
It's true. Zane, I'm going to put you on the spot here.
yeah, man.
Did you listen to the first podcast episode yet or no?
I watched 2 of the clips.
Oh, dude.
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Wow.
I will watch it after this.
Yeah, you got some homework.
Hold up. Just had an idea. What about I ask a question that's like about the Bible, but also just like chill. Let me explain. Okay. What do you guys think about aliens?
That's a good one.
Are we going to conspiracy theories now?
Dude, pyramids? Question mark.
Bro, Zane, you can hold the mic a little closer.
A little closer? Yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but I believe that the pyramids, there must have been something that was like that altered with the pyramids. How could they just be there?
Bro, it's weird because
I understand that.
there's like it's not just pyramids in Egypt, but it's also the Mayan and the Aztec, right?
Yeah.
They had pyramids, and if you look, they're all kind of near the equator.
Really?
Right? And they're like in alignment with each other. It's very odd.
It's insane. It's just like the sheer size of the pyramids. Like, how could they do that in such little time?
How much time did they do it?
I don't remember. It was like, but I'm pretty sure it was under like the rule of one man, like whoever the emperor or leader, pharaoh or whatever pharaoh back then was. Like if they did that in one guy's lifetime.
That's true because the blocks, like the singular blocks, were tons and tons and tons.
How many are there? Pyramids. In that
Well,
section.
Giza, isn't it just 3?
Yeah, the 3
3
pyramids.
pyramids of Giza.
But then there's also like the pyramids across, like the Aztec and Mayan had pyramids. No, but that is very odd, and I don't know the exact calculations, but there's so much science behind the pyramids. It's like the way that they're built,
Oh yeah, they're like aligned perfectly with like
Something
true
like
north,
that.
south, east, and west.
and it's like how would they have been that advanced to know all that? So are you claiming you think that like they had aliens?
I don't
come down
know.
and, like, help them or something?
I've been watching like Joe Rogan's podcast, and
Because I've heard those theories.
they get my mind like, I don't know, in a mess because they just bring up all these information that's like, that is the weirdest stuff. How is that even possible?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of conspiracy theories on social media. You guys have any other conspiracy theories you believe?
Well, I was just going to talk about the pyramids.
Oh,
real
my
quick.
bad.
I personally think that it's possible to do without intervention from aliens. You really are just stacking blocks. And think about it. You're just stacking blocks, and then each block just gets smaller. And like each square just gets smaller until you go up. Like the idea of it from like a, an perspective of an architect, not that hard to make. It'd just be really heavy. But dude, they had hundreds of guys. And I'm sure they had a little bit of technology to help them out with like wheels and stuff. So.
Yeah, but like, weren't they like tens of thousands of pounds.
Wait, they built them in the desert.
I don't know.
Do they have wheels on? The wheels work on sand?
I mean, I'm sure it wasn't just all on sand. Like I'm sure they had they were walking on rock.
All right, so basically, myth debunked. Aliens came and helped.
That's what we just concluded. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I don't know
I'm
enough
glad
about it.
I'm glad
Honestly.
we're in congruence.
But speaking about conspiracy theories you hear on social media, today we're going to be talking about social media and all the ways that it has impacted this generation. I think that was actually one of my best segues.
That was really
Dude, that was really
that
good.
was impressive.
Before we get into it, though, guys, this episode is brought to you by Grab My Contact. If you guys want a really cool, fast, and simple way to share all of your contact information seamlessly with others, Grab My Contact is a bracelet for you. It's a sick bracelet. It comes in a lot of different styles, a lot of beach aesthetic styles. Has a sick button on it that's waterproof. You can have this thing with you wherever you go. You basically just tap it to someone's phone. It comes up with all your contact information, everything from social media, phone number, PayPal, Zen, or Venmo, whatever. Like, let's say your friends owe you money and they're like, bro, they're coming up with excuses. Just make them pull out their phone and tap it, and they owe you on the spot. So if you guys are interested in getting yours today, make sure you go over to grabmycontact.com. Use your code 15OFF for 15% off.
Hey, I've worn this thing for the past 4 months. Never taken it off once, and I think it works better than the day I got it. Never. There's no tears, no anything.
I will never part with my Grab My Contact. It is one with me.
Hey, if you guys are single out there, it's a great pickup line also. But anyways, yeah, today we're going to be talking about social media. And not just social media. We're going to be covering a lot of topics pertaining specifically to Generation Z. But I just want to open it up with this. Gen Z is known for a lot of things. We are deemed the most beautiful generation based on looks wise, but we're also deemed the most anxious generation. And so having those two very polarizing opposites, right? We have someone saying, oh, we're a beautiful generation. That's a positive. Then we have a very big negative, the most anxious generation. So just going off of that, what do you guys think about that? Do you think that's true? Do you think I like being part of Gen Z? Because other people, part of other generations, they might not understand. But like, what do you guys think about that statistic?
I mean, I wasn't around when other generations were our age, so I mean, obviously, I think we're the most best looking generation. I can't argue that. But I've heard this thing one time. Don't know if I'm right. Take it with a grain of salt. Hey, shout out, Pumpkin.
Grain of salt.
It was the idea that the human brain cannot process anxiety and the feeling of gratefulness at the same time. And the idea of our Gen Z's attention span being so little and our want for immediate pleasure is so high, it's that we don't sit down and we're never grateful for the little things in life. So we're always thinking about what's next and what's wrong and what we don't have, besides seeing what we do have and what we should be grateful for and what others don't have, having sympathy and empathizing with others. I don't know. I think that's a problem with our generation. So yeah, I think we are probably the most anxious generation. And I think that's partly due to the intake of social media, and yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think a big thing that you said there was the immediate satisfaction, the dopamine hit from doing something, but not wanting to put in the work, right? Mm-hmm. Love the reward, but don't want to put in the work to actually get the outcome you want. And I think that can bring a lot of anxiety when it comes to even stuff like school. Like, they might have depressed college students that are out there, because when it comes to actually putting in hard work towards something, a lot of students don't want to do that. I was listening to Charlie Kirk talk the other day about how the college dropout rate is like 30-something%. That's a lot of students dropping out of college. So I think there's a lot to unpack there.
Hey, Charlie Kirk also thinks college is a scam.
Oh, I saw it on TikTok.
He does.
Yeah.
But I think it's very interesting you say that and bring that up because you say that people in college, they're not happy, right? And I think if you look at it, it's like, why wouldn't you be happy? Because if you look at other countries, there's some people that literally will fight tooth and nail. Like, they will give everything to try to achieve a college level or even a high school level education, right? Because in most third world countries, like that is unheard of and that's hard to obtain. And to them, that's like, if you have that, like it's everything. You know, you can work hard. And so kind of back up to what you were just saying with people who aren't happy in the position they are in here in America with college. Why is that? I think there's a few reasons. I think one is identity, right? And fulfillment and purpose. If you do not have your identity fully in Jesus, which a lot of, let's face it, a lot of college students today don't, then ultimately it's not going to lead to full joy. It'll lead to temporary happiness. Happiness is temporary feeling. Joy is joy is permanent, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
so they say, sorry.
Yeah. So because they don't have their identity in Jesus, and because they are looking for that in the world, and putting their identity in a degree rather than their heavenly Father, that ultimately causes them to not be full of joy and not to be fully happy. And I think that is one of the reasons that this generation, I would say, suffers a lot with that, you know? And I don't know how it is compared to other generations, because I wasn't there for that. But if I were to imagine it, I feel like past generations would probably have taken their education more seriously, right? Because like social media glamorizes this college lifestyle of partying and going out and all of these things, you know? What do you guys think about that?
Oh, 100%. It does.
Yeah, I agree. I think
Like-
that. Yeah, you go.
Oh, sorry. Like I'll hear stories from my father and my mom, and yeah, I mean, they're probably, what are they, like 2 generations behind us? Like there's millennials and there's like Gen X, I think.
Yes, I believe
Okay,
so.
I think they're Gen X. So like they did have like frats and parties or whatever in high school, but they also were like, yeah, we all had like high GPAs. We all studied like 5 hours a day.
Right.
Whereas nowadays it's just like, oh, they had to go to the library to learn things. They couldn't just search it up or use Chat GPT or some sort of AI form, which I think is the biggest cheat code that like this generation has when it comes to grades. And in the end, we're not actually learning anything. And I mean, I fall short of this too. So I'm running late on an assignment. I'll be using ChatGPT sometimes.
You're not the only one.
But
Very relatable. Yeah.
yeah, what were you saying, Zane?
Well, I wanted to comment on what you said about the kind of how everything is so accessible to us, right? And Gavin touched on how people from other countries would literally fight for the opportunity to come to America and get an education, right? But I think because it's so normal here that you graduate high school, and for a lot of people, parents are going to fund your college fully, and you can go really wherever you want to go, since nothing has significance anymore, I feel like, because everything is like open to us, you know what I mean? I feel like I've been very blessed to where I've had a lot of opportunities, but I appreciate them, you know? And I definitely sometimes don't understand the actual value of getting an education. Like Brandon said, everything I learned this year in methods of calculus was in one ear, out the other. Once you take the test, like all of it forgotten, you know? You are training for the test. And I think that's what most of college and school is now, is you're not learning to learn. You're like training your brain to remember something for a test, to then immediately drop it once the test is over. The goal isn't to learn anymore. The goal is to actually
Just pass.
And get to the next stage. And once you're at that next stage, what'd you bring with you? Nothing. You know what I mean? It's like you dropped everything off and are just going to the next stage. So.
No, I agree. I especially agree with the artificial intelligence topic. It's like, if you know there's an easier way to do something, why not do it, right?
Exactly.
And I mean, I think that's human nature. We're lazy, so we want to do the easier thing.
Talking about doing the easier things. segue.
Oh, good segue.
Crazy segue.
Talking about doing the easier things. I think Gen Z, we just feed off of our friends, and sometimes we grow up and we're not all Christians, so we look at the Bible and we read it the way we want to read it. We don't read it the way it's supposed to be read. So yeah, in that sense, like a lot of Christians are like, yeah, well, I can go drink, party, smoke, I don't know, get wasted, sleep around. That's okay because Jesus forgives everything. There's nothing I can't do that it's ever going to be wrong in my life. And I think that that's kind of like taking the easy way out. And soon enough, I mean, those people will realize that if they don't change, then they're not going to go to heaven.
Yeah.
Because there's no repentance in something that's, in a sense, habitual, but
Right.
On purpose.
Right.
Here's kind of a story from my high school, like journey with Christ. I went to this youth group. All these people are amazing, by the way. Nothing against them. But a lot of the people around me, they came to church Sunday, went to a youth group on Wednesday, maybe did a Bible study once a week or something like that. But it wasn't like they wouldn't retain what they're taking in. They would just do it to do the check mark or check the box off, and then they would go out on the weekends and drink and go like sleep around with others, and they would just say, yeah, but I love Jesus, and that's all that I need. All I need to do is love Jesus. And what I think about that is that's like saying you love your mom and then going and spitting in her face. Like, why would you do that? If you loved her, why would you spit in her face? And I just think that's like the poison that the social media and Gen Z has put on each other.
Faith without works is dead.
It's facts. Faith without works is dead.
Yeah, well, they say it's more dangerous to be lukewarm
Right.
than to not know at all. Because I think it even says, cursed is the man that knows what's good and what's not and still chooses to do what's not good than the man that really doesn't know. Because you can only be judged upon really what you know in a certain way. But I think that is very dangerous, and we're seeing a spike of those kind of lukewarm Christians that are choosing to maybe go to the events and get it done. Maybe they're like, yeah, check the box. I feel a little bit better about myself. It makes going out to the club on Saturday night feel a little bit better, maybe. But that is really dangerous to what they're doing, because they're also showing other people that it only takes that to be a Christian. All you have to do is claim you love the Lord. Maybe go to a Bible study and then you're going. So I think it's really dangerous.
I think Satan's job is basically to make you comfortable in your sin. That's not his job, but he does that. Satan tries to make you comfortable in your sin. And there's this actually kind of a scary verse from the Bible. I couldn't quote it, but it kind of talks about how when one demon is cast out of the host, 7 more demons are put on to that person, or they try to latch on to that person. So that just goes to say how difficult the actual path to salvation and being a follower of Jesus is. It's not just, I cast out this demon, now the devil's going to leave me alone. No, he's going to come at you 7 times harder.
Right. Especially if he sees you doing good, because the enemy comes only to kill, steal, and destroy. So, when people talk about spiritual warfare, I know some of you guys might not know what that is out there, but it's very real and very powerful to experience spiritual warfare, especially if you are going in your faith, because Satan hates that. The one thing that Satan hates the most is when you are actively pursuing God and you are growing that. And if you are, he's going to try everything he can to stop that and prevent that. Because, if you look at it, like, who is he going to attack more? Like, someone who's a threat to him or someone who's not, right?
Yeah.
And so the most times in my life when I've experienced spiritual warfare is like straight after a spiritual high. I don't know if you guys can relate to that.
Oh,
yeah. And to define spiritual warfare real quick, just so that we all are thinking the same things. We know that there is a constant battle of good and evil in us. You could say God and Satan, right? The good one and the evil one. And we have angels. I believe we have angels around us, and then we also have demons around us. There is a physical world and a spiritual world.
Right.
And every day we are faced with many decisions that we can make, and that all goes into our spiritual warfare. Are we going to choose to be good and obey the commandments, or are we going to choose to fall into our sin, obey the flesh, and allow the demons to win? It's a constant battle that we all face every day. It's just good to define that real quick, just so everyone knows. If you guys think that's pretty much what it is, right?
I completely disagree. No,
you were talking about spiritual highs.
Right.
So I know what a spiritual high is, and I definitely have experienced them. But I think that every Christian's goal should be to stray away from the idea of spiritual highs. And let me explain.
I agree.
What I mean by that. Now I know that most people who would hear this are either Christians or maybe they're people who aren't Christian. But those who have been to things like a passion camp or some retreat or mission trip with your church, you often are like, you come home and you're like all about Jesus, because for that week or 2 weeks or 3 days, you were in the presence of God. You were actively searching for God. You were reading your Bible. You were getting discernment from others, getting new ideas and new ways of life through that whole week, and you were actively searching for Jesus. So when you leave, you're still kind of in that mindset. And for the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you're like, man, I'm still on my camp high. I'm still on my retreat high. I'm yearning for Jesus. And I think that's a sham. Like me personally, I think that I still do get, you would call it like a camp high. I'll go somewhere and I'll be yearning for Jesus so much. But throughout the years, it's become more consistent. Like I find myself after like maybe I missed a week of church. So I haven't been to a church, talked to a pastor in maybe 2 weeks, but I'll see myself sitting in my bed, maybe breaking down crying and opening my Bible because I just want Jesus that badly. I think that every Christian should strive to want God that badly without having to be surrounded by the entire kingdom of Jesus, basically. You should be your own warrior.
I agree a lot, actually, with that.
Yeah.
I feel like we could do a whole podcast on that topic, honestly, because that can go deep.
I heard one pastor say one time, and it stuck with me, that you should not confuse a spiritual encounter with an emotion, right? And 'cause like a lot of people, like they'll hear a song and they'll cry, and they'll be like, oh my gosh, Jesus is here, he's in me, like, and obviously he is. Like they'll confuse an emotion with like the spirit, like you said. And like I think a lot of people, what's dangerous with spiritual highs is because it is it's temporary for some people, right? Like especially when you're coming off of the church camps and the retreats, because you feel on fire, but the question is, will you stay on fire, right? Like you said.
Well, yeah, you're purely basing it off of a feeling, right? And I remember Gavin and I went to this church for a while in Boca, where we go to college, and we brought one of our friends there once, and she was like, I can feel the presence of God in this place. And I think that it was because they would play their bass like extra loud. They would play the music so loud, and you're kind of feeling the emotions, maybe getting emotional, your eyes are swelling up with tears, and you love the song. But I believe a true faith like prospers when, like Brandon said, you're in your lowest moment and you're still choosing to stay spiritually disciplined, right? And doing and reading your word and not falling in and giving into your flesh, because we've all been there. Like those feelings, and they feel real, and sometimes they are real, right? After a great worship song or after a missions trip, right? But I think there is a big difference between being a good person when you feel good and then actually choosing to be spiritually disciplined when things are bad.
Brandon's getting ready to quote something here.
He's about to
definitely he just flipped the switch in my brain. He talked about true faith prospers when you're at your lowest. And there's a story in the Bible that actually talks about this. And basically the idea of you guys are both talking about feeling good. And obviously, think about it like this. If your mom is giving you everything you ask for, you're going to love her so much. Now, when you do something bad and she takes something away, you're going to have these negative feelings toward her. Oh, why are you, you're the worst mom in the world. I don't know if you guys ever talk like that.
Facts.
When you were a kid.
When I was a kid, I'd get mad at my mom. I'd go in my room and be like,
yeah,
like flick the door off.
You slam the door really softly.
Yeah.
But basically, the devil actually tested this man. His name was Job in the Bible. So in the beginning of Job, it says where he lived. And then it also says that he was a blameless and upright man. He feared God and shunned evil. And then basically, God was like flexing Job in a way. He's like, look at how great this guy is. And then the devil's like, well, of course. Let me find the verse actually. It's fine. He said, does Job fear God for nothing? Satan replied. Have you not put a hedge around him and a house to hold everything he has? You have blessed the work of his hands so that his flocks and herds are spread throughout the land. But now stretch out your hand and strike everything he has, and he will surely curse you to your face. So Satan is basically challenging God,
right?
Saying that he only is a God-fearing man and loves you because you've given him everything that he has. And basically then Jesus or the Lord, the Father, tells Satan to have his way with Job. And then Job goes on to lose everything. He loses, he has 10 children. He loses all 10 children. And he is like a very rich man, loses all of his wealth. And then he stays faithful. And he never asked God why, like he didn't doubt God for a minute. And then Jesus or the Father says, all right, now you can take his health from him, but do not kill him. So basically, now this man is in complete pain. His body filled up with boils, I'm pretty sure, from the inside of his body.
Oh my gosh.
So he was sitting in a fetal position with his body feeling like he's burning from the inside out. He has just lost his whole family. His house is gone. All of his money's gone. All of his livestock is gone. He's basically worthless in the eyes of the human. But God still sees value in him. And basically, eventually, Job begins to doubt. And then later in the story, he forgets that doubt and remembers that God gave everything to him and that he's allowed to take everything away. And in the end of the story, Job stays faithful to God, and then God gives everything back to Job and more. So he reaped the reward of staying faithful to God, because he was in his lowest time. He showed faith and he prospered through the struggles, and he was rewarded. So yeah,
I love that.
That reminds me so much of one of my favorite quotes I've heard it on a podcast, but we're not going to say it because it's competition. I mean, we can't say other podcasts on this podcast. But it was, you're not a good man if you're only good while your surroundings are good.
Oh my goodness, put that on a shirt. That is...
I paraphrased, but so I can make that my own. I might be able to make that my own. Yeah, quote Zane. But I think that's so true, right?
Right.
A man is really tested when the surroundings are on fire and everything's going to hell, right?
Right.
So I think that's when we as men are really tested, because you see a lot of great people do great things, and then as soon as stuff goes wrong, they just tank, right? Because they're not used to things being wrong. They don't have any discipline. They don't have any grit. They don't have a lot of substance because they haven't been able to actually, push through hard times.
Kind of to bounce off of that, another question, kind of relating back to the whole topic of Gen Z. Do you guys think that Gen Z as a whole, when you look at Western Christianity, do you think that a lot of people our age in Christianity is based on strictly a feeling?
Yeah, but I also think that most people in general who are Christians I think that applies to everybody, not just Gen Z. I think that I think it's more prominent in Gen Z, but also we haven't had time to, develop, I'd say. I'm not going to blame the 16-year-old or 17-year-old who's just finding out what the Bible is. Oh, it's a feeling. Oh, it's not real. You're going to hell still, kid. I'm not going to be like that. I'm not going to give him a hard time because he's new to it. God's just found him. He's just started to seek God. But yeah, I do know a lot of people in Gen Z who just, like, they'll throw their hands up and cry every time they hear music, but then when there's no music, they're like a different person, basically.
Right.
Like whenever they're not in church, they're just a different person because they do whatever makes them feel best. And whenever they're at church, that makes them feel good. But when they're not at church and they're not surrounded by people who love Jesus, other things make them feel good. So basically, they're just doing what their body desires.
It's interesting because I would say that I used to be exactly that way you just described. I would always have an emotional reaction because I'm a very emotional person. So I would always have emotional reactions to worship, and it's just I would think because of that, oh, I'm crying right now. I'm feeling this so much. I must be so close to God, And I would kind of justify that when I was living in my sin to say it's okay because I'm still close with God, but it's not based on that emotion at all. And I think that's one of Satan's tactics that he can use on people, is confusing you, making you think you're closer to God than you actually are. And back to kind of what we discussed the first podcast is compromising with your sin. It's like that is, I think that's the one way that Satan chips it away, right? Because if you start with one compromise, I saw this amazing sermon, right? I don't remember who gave it, but when you're referring to sin is, it holds you back from God. It holds you back from reaching your purpose, your full purpose in life, and for God fully using you. It leads to death and destruction, but it holds you back is its main quality. And so if you see it from that lens, it's kind of like a ball and chain, right? And a ball and chain is a heavy weight connected to a chain, which would be connected to like your ankle or say. And what the pastor said is Satan doesn't show you the ball and chain all at once, because obviously you're going to stray away from that. What he does is he compromises, and each little compromise is a chain link. Mm-hmm. And every single time that you make a compromise, it's like, oh, I'll watch porn. This is the last time. I'll never do it again. It's a link. Oh, I said God's name in vain. It's okay. Like everyone around me sing it. Chain link. And it happens each time. It adds another chain link, and to the point where you didn't even realize how much time you've sinned, and you have a whole ball and chain just shackled around you.
It's like, oh, this party's not that bad.
I'm only gonna drink once.
I'm only gonna take this many shots. Yeah, like the idea of rationalization.
Okay, so like justifying it. I think that's honestly the easiest to do with Christianity, because I'm sure you know a lot too about like in Islam, they have a way bigger fear of God.
100%.
You know what I mean? Because like they genuinely would not go out and do something because they know their God could strike them down where they stand. But I have friends that I see go out to the club, and I see videos of them like actually drinking, and I'm like, bro, we just talked about this like the other day. How have you already compromised that to that level that you're already out there already just so?
And 95% of the time, that person will tell you their rationalization. Like you don't even have to ask them. You just be like, "Why are you doing this?" Yeah. And they'll say, "Oh well, I didn't get drunk," or "Oh well, I was just tipsy." Like the Bible says, don't get drunk. And I'm like,
4 drink minimum.
Like yeah, like
I like that, because that's this can be seen from everywhere. But a lot of people, at least lukewarm Christians, they'll look at sin and they'll look at it as how close can I get to it when it's before it being sin, right?
Oh my gosh.
What they don't
You just unlocked a new conversation.
Yes,
do you have something you wanted to say about that?
No, if you want to finish, I do that.
I'll finish with
Finish what you're saying.
And so like, I mean, what's like a good example? Kind of like the drunk thing, right? It's like drinking as a whole is not bad. A lot of people will drink to get drunk, but if you know it's a temptation for you, it's like, why would you even bother? It's like, it's honestly like pointing a loaded gun to your head, right? Because you know it's a temptation, and Satan knows it's a temptation. So what you'll do is you'll rationalize, like we've been talking about. And you'll say, well, I can drink this much and I won't get drunk. I'll be maybe tipsy and I'll have a good time. So that's what you'll do. But it's like, as Christians, we shouldn't be looking at it as like, how close can I get to this before I'm sinning? It's how far away should I stay away from it to be living my life for Christ, right? Mm-hmm. What did you want to say about that?
Yeah, the Christian ministry that we go to in college is called Crew. We had a man come in. He was a guest speaker. I'm pretty sure his name was Steve, and he actually was originally talking about marriage. Shout out Steve, but he brought up the idea of what Gavin just said, that we like to live life on the edge of sin.
Right.
It's like he said that we're pointing a loaded gun at our head. We have it's on us. Like we're the ones holding the gun, so we know we're not going to shoot the gun. Now you slip up, you fall over, you like somebody pushes you, you pull it, now you're dead. Like you've just fallen into sin so easily. So this man Steve, he brought up the idea of there's the line between not sinning and sinning, and we all like to live on that line. So any amount of slip up will result into sin.
Right.
Now, if you draw your line 5 feet behind the line of sin, then you'll never sin, because you can fall over, you can get pushed over, shoved as hard as you want, and you still won't fall over that line because you've set your standards so high.
Right.
And in the sense that I'll bring this up in the last one, but I have a friend who they will not listen to any music that does not bring them closer to God. Not because he thinks that all music that is secular is bad, but because he knows that if he only does Jesus related music, he knows that he will not sin, because there's not even a chance. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I just think that was a great analogy. The whole idea of trying to live our lives behind the line of sin, and as far back as we can.
I love that. Yeah.
I also would love to go off that, what you said. I think you could think about it in this way too. When you are living your life right on the border of sin, right? I think you're looking at life and your faith with the lens of how little can I give away? How little power can I give away? And then if you were drawing it like 5 feet behind that line, you're looking at it from how much like do I need to give away? Because I'm willing to give it all, you know, like exactly what I need to do to not even come close to it, right? I think you're looking at it from two different point of views. A selfish way of how little can I give up and still get the peace and the glory,
The rewards
The
that
rewards.
Jesus has for me.
and then the other person's like, I'll do whatever it takes. So God's like, okay, push back that boundary, right?
Love
and I
that.
think that's really
Yeah.
that's what it comes down to, your heart posture and your mindset of how much are you really willing to give up so that you won't fall into it again. Because we know there's some cycles out there that once you fall into them, it's hard to get out, right? It's how much are you really willing to give up for the Lord and for salvation.
And I will say that the idea of how if your idea is how close can I get to the line, and that's how you're living, like oh, I'm not actually having sex right now, so it's not actually a sin. Oh, I'm not actually looking at her in real life, so it's not actually a sin. Oh, I'm not actually, I don't know, indulging right now, so it's not actually a sin. If that's how you're thinking, there's bad news coming for you, because it's your intent behind the way you live your life. If you're living your life just because you want the rewards Jesus has for you, you're not going to be getting them. You should be living your life for Jesus, so it should be what you want to do.
Right.
If you are wanting, this is something that you have to work on and read your Bible and learn discernment through this. But if you're wanting to do these bad things, and you're not the only reason you're not doing it is because you don't want to go to hell, you're doing it for the wrong reasons.
Right.
What were you saying, Gavin?
No, I didn't really have anything else to add to that. I was just
Oh, it looks like you were about to start
disagreeing.
I'm trying to find some.
I was
trying to find
I
some
had
scripture.
what was this question I had? Oh, this is not about Gen Z anymore. I don't know if you want to switch it up or a different question maybe.
There's like one more thing I want to talk about.
Oh,
Gen Z.
sure. Go ahead.
This is can't really segue because just amazing. First of all, amazing discussion there. I love that every second of that. But I don't really have a way to segue. But something I wanted to talk about with Gen Z is kind of more on the social media side and how I think social media has, for a mental health stance or view, has really just broken Gen Z, right? Because like these phone things, like they're amazing if they're used correctly, but they're dangerous if they're used incorrectly, which is how society is kind of turned towards using them, right? And specifically, I wanted to talk about how Gen Z kind of creates their own truths. And for me, the way that I relate to this most is just from seeing like, and just bear with me, all right? Is all these videos that someone will hold the phone and they'll talk to it and they'll speak this revelation they have as truth. Specifically about like, what's an example? Like relationships. Like I saw someone create a video once. She's holding this phone. She's talking about Taylor Swift, and she's like, "If your man does not like Taylor Swift, it's a red flag." There's 1.4 million likes on this video, and hundreds of thousands of comments of people agreeing with her, and it's ridiculous because you might not ever think about this in your head, but then you see a video with millions of likes and thousands of people agreeing with it in the comments, and immediately it's going to feed your delusions to start believing it because naturally other people believe it. If like a lot of people in society are sheep, they're going to follow the crowds, and so they see this and they'll believe it. And I think on the basis of relationships, it's ruined relationships, right? Because it gives everyone these false precedents and standards of how they should be treated, shouldn't be treated in relationships, just because of how people will share their views and get validation from random people on the internet. What do you guys think about this?
Yeah, well, I mean, I could give you another video that I saw on Instagram Reels the other day. It was one of the dumbest videos I've ever seen. But real quick, I want to say I think it's also so dangerous because of like our youth, like our like 10 to like 14-year-old, 15-year-old like guys and girls that are seeing this and can be easily like tricked and deceived, right, into believing that it is true. So I saw this one video and it was this girl saying, 5 tips to make you the most attractive man this girl has ever seen. And she's like, we're gonna get you ready for that girlfriend because here she comes. Millions of likes,
Right.
millions of views, and all these guys in the comments like
Mm-hmm.
that are probably saving this video, right? And they are gonna actually use this girl's tips, and a lot of it was them trying to make themselves better, like things they can do to be better. And I just think it's so silly, and there's such an emphasis on relationships, you know. That's a whole nother discussion in our day and age, where I feel like if you don't have a relationship in high school, people think you're weird. You think you're weird.
That's gonna be another video. The whole relationship thing.
Yeah. Sorry. We'll go
No, but
we'll
I
go
just
back to
There's a lot
that.
to talk
But
about.
just the idea of kids are very impressionable, and the fact that they're on TikTok at 11 years old. If I see that at 11 years old, I want my crush to like me. I'm probably gonna watch that video and apply what it says.
Do you remember any of the things that, like, could you name one?
Well,
that,
one of them was wear cologne whenever you're in a public setting. It was stuff like that, and a lot of it wasn't bad. But then a few things that she said was things to say and things to do around here that were like pretty much insinuating like touching, like hand on the leg and like hand on the back. It was just it just creates a false precedent for what it's actually like to interact with a girl.
Bro, when I was like 10 years old, I was I was like 4th grade, 3rd grade. Imagine seeing that. And because I know for me, I didn't get my phone until I was young or older.
A phone, you said?
A phone.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, you're right. Like, if kids that age are seeing that and they're being taught to like hand on the thigh or something, like, that's wild. That young.
I was gonna say off of what Zane was talking about. I'm talking about relationships and social media, like, kind of infecting the youth. This is one I just thought about.
Off the dome.
I would say it's bad to idolize anything that's not Jesus. That's not true. It's bad to idolize things that are negative for you. Because I would say that when I was a kid, my idol was my father. Like, my dad was my idol. I wanted to be like my dad. And I think that's a pretty healthy thing to do. It obviously depends on what type of guy your dad is. And I just happen to be lucky. My dad's a God-fearing man. And like, I would say I wanted to be a lot like my dad. And I think I am a lot like my dad. And I think nowadays, it's not like that. I think that these kids spend more time watching YouTube than talking to their family. So it's the idea of like, oh, this kid like loves Mr. Beast and now he wants to be exactly like Mr. Beast. Or like somebody else that's maybe negative or just not a great person.
Wow,
it's the idea of like the dad, because every dad, no matter, even if Mr. Beast was your dad, that's kind of funny. But like,
he's my dad.
Like the way that you're raised is different than the way that people come off on social media. So like my dad to random people, they would idolize them or see him differently than I did because he raised me. Because he raised me with like, he taught me what punishment is. He taught me what's wrong and what's right. Now, if YouTube's teaching you those things, you're going to have a very corrupt mind.
I've never looked at it that way. As like these random influencers are becoming so much of an idolization to these kids that they're literally like a father or mother figure to them.
In a way.
I've never looked at that from that lens before.
Have you seen those meetups that they'll do, like YouTube meetups? Like thousands of kids,
right,
like in middle school,
are
like idolizing like Danny Duncan and like Loaf and Gideon as their role models. You know what I mean?
No hate, but
no hate, but
they're funny guys.
No, they're funny guys, but like you said, you want to look up to a God-fearing man that teaches you about discipline and all that.
And I don't know if those guys are, but that's not what they're teaching on their YouTube.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. It's what they're showing.
Yeah.
What the kids are watching.
Wow, I've never looked at it from that perspective. Wow. Yeah, I mean, social media as a whole, it's very influential from any lens you look at it as. Whether it's, like you said, from kids or whether it's someone who is in a relationship. I think another negative way that people have been affected by it is body dysmorphia and how they view themselves and comparison. Like we could talk about this for so long, but just comparison in general on social media, I feel like is very detrimental.
It's the killer of all joy, they say.
That's what it says.
Yeah.
It's pretty insane.
I think that's something I struggle with. Like whenever I go home and with my friends at home, I find myself comparing myself to others or them and seeking their approval, and I just think it's super negative. And I finally have like realized that, and I'm trying to like stop doing that. But when I go to college and I'm with other Jesus people, it's way easier to stay away from What comparison? Comparison, yeah. It's the
Right.
what is it you said? The killer
I
of all
think
joy, the
thief of all
thief
joy.
of all
Yeah,
joy.
thief of all joy.
Person. That sounds about right. Thief of all joy. Yeah.
But
Yeah. No, that's.
well, I know. So we're all into fitness enough to know that we probably see stuff on social media of these guys that are very fit. You know, they've got it down, the eating, the working out. And in a way, we're like looking at ourselves and we're just like, wow, we look nothing like that. But we're not looking at ourselves a year ago and comparing that, right? We're comparing ourselves to these guys that are on steroids and have been doing it for 10 years, right? And I think it's really hard to not look at that and be like, wow, I need to have abs. I need bigger shoulders, you know? But you're not looking at yourself a year ago and monitoring that process.
What do you guys think about private churches? Like, you know, like the Methodist and Baptist church, they have like basically kind of like a corporate system. So like the really big churches that make a lot of money, their money doesn't just go to them. It'll go to all the other churches. Like the little churches that don't make any money, they're only alive because the big churches will like give them money. And like nowadays, there's a lot of private churches where the pastor is like driving a Lamborghini and stuff. There are good private churches. I'm not gonna doubt that. Like, because like some mega churches, usually mega churches are private churches, because like usually churches will want to expand. Right.
All I would say about that is if you're looking at it from like the money, because if you look at the church system in general, there is a lot of money to be made, right? Through tithes and donations and events and stuff. Like there's a lot of money that can be made, and you can look at it from one of two ways. You can either say, one, maybe this church is shady and doing it for the wrong reasons, they want the money, or maybe two, they really are genuinely trying to advance the kingdom. And I think it's hard sometimes to know, but that's where the discernment comes in, right? And
here's a better question. The line when you know how you're supposed to give all, like God will say, give everything you have away,
right,
to that one person, or the servant was like, oh good master, like how do I get to heaven? And then one of the this is not directly after but he says, now you must go and give out all of your riches and stuff, give everything away. Like, are you prepared to do that? Like my church that I grew up in, it's a big church, I would say, and it definitely makes a lot of money, but it's not a private church. So like my pastor doesn't live on the lake with like a beach house or whatever, like for the summer. Like he doesn't live like that. He lives nice, but he has like a regular salary. Whereas another church back from where I'm from is called Real Life. And I never went to Real Life. I've been a couple times just to see what's up. And the pastor there, he lives like on the lake, has a really nice boat, really nice car. And I think Real Life is a great thing. But I'm just saying, I don't think anything that pastor is doing is wrong. But like, where's the line between giving away your stuff and whenever you're keeping stuff for yourself?
I have another question, but it might drag on. I feel like this is a big topic, but I'm just gonna ask it. You didn't want to talk about his question anymore? No, it pertains to that. Okay. It's a follow up. Let's say you're a pastor in ministry and you've been working hard your whole life, and you're not shady, and you've saved and amassed enough money to finally buy like a dream car. Do you think it's not unbiblical to do that? To buy a nice house, to buy a nice car, because you've worked hard, you've earned it, but then you have, like, as a pastor, like, you have that position. Do you think that is biblical or not to do that?
I don't know.
See, like, that's where like it gets complicated.
I need like more wisdom because
I think we can like talk about it in a way. And I think I kind of have an opinion on it without having a specific stance on it. You know what I mean? I would say that the Bible emphasizes a lot worldly riches and how it decays with time. And I have this one verse I love, and it talks about the sun burning the grass and the flower falls and withers it away, meaning how we can't bring anything with us into the kingdom, right? So I think that there comes a point where, like, Pat, he's very young. If he were to go out and buy a really nice car now, I would feel like, okay, I don't think he's being a great steward of the money he's been given, right? Because clearly his priority is not the kingdom. If he's already buying a supercar, what is it, 8 years into into being a pastor?
He's like, what, is he in his 30s now?
Yeah, I think so. And I think if a man like you said, has worked hard for 20, 30 years, dedicated his life to the kingdom, and done incredible things for the Lord and for his church, and that would maybe you'd be able to justify him buying a nicer car more than you would the younger pastor,
Right.
because he spent years showing where his heart is truly at. And maybe when he's 60, he just wants a toy to have fun with,
Right.
you know? But could we make a specific stance on it? Maybe not. But you guys know what I'm saying?
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree with what you're saying. That makes sense. I can see
I guess
both
it's
ways.
like a personal conviction. Like,
right.
are you truly like striving to expand the kingdom of God, or are you using the kingdom of God to get what you want, basically?
Dang,
Right. I really like that.
that's hard.
So just to wrap up this whole topic real quick, for people struggling with anxiety, I just wanted to read Philippians 4:16. Do not be worried about anything, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God, and the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. And I just thought that was a great verse relating to everything that we've discussed here today.
Can I read one?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, I want to read one now.
I'm gonna read Philippians.
What's my verse?
Oh, you copied me with Philippians, boy.
Wait, what'd you read?
4:16.
Okay, I'm gonna read 4:8. Okay.
Okay.
Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. Focus on things that are good and are going to lift you up in life, you know? Don't be looking at all this crazy stuff on the news and social media to lift you up, because at the end of the day, you will then struggle, right?
Right.
Mhm.
Whatever you put in your mind is going to determine how you act and who you are.
That's what's up.
That's what's up. That's what's popping. So yeah, dude, we gotta end with take it with a grain of salt. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. Haven't decided yet if there's gonna be 2 a week or one. For now, I think we're doing weekly, so this will probably drop like Thursday, Friday. But yeah, make sure you guys stay tuned for next week. We got another amazing episode planned. But until then, I'm Gavin.
Brandon.
Zane.
Make sure you say everything said here with a grain of salt. We'll see you guys next time. Peace out.